Okay, so I'm going to continue to work on the melee combat. I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to try to add more to it and make it more sophisticated. But first, I'm going to start off by creating something called Antic animations. And if you don't know what Antic animations is, it means Antic is short for anticipation animations. So just to give you an example, I'm just going to go in here and open up a file. Um, I'll open up the Android Guard idle animation. Just wait for that to open up real quick. Okay, so this this is basically just idle. He's just standing there. Um, Basically, in the game that I've created so far, he goes whenever he makes an attack, he goes from this pose. He goes from an idle pose. But before he attacks, I want to create an antic, which is a little short animation where he gets into position so that the viewer anticipates what he's going to do next. So that's why it's called antic animation. It helps the viewer anticipate the next action. So this one's going to be about 2 seconds long. I'm going to delete all the keys, and I'll make the antic actually. No, I think 2 seconds is good enough. So 60 frames. So it gives the player 2 seconds to recognize that this enemy is about to make a move, is about to do something. So it will give the player a chance to do something like evade, which is something else I'm going to trying to implement in this video. Okay, so while I do this, I'm going to quickly put it on time lapse because I don't think you want to see through the whole thing. Okay, so what I've created is basically as soon as he's ready to attack, he will go into like position for the first 10 frames, and then he will stay there for about a second and 2/3. So that's about 50 frames. He'll just be in that idle position, and then that will give that maybe that will give the player to anticipate the attack. So right after that 60 seconds is up, he attacks. So I'm just gonna export that. And this one will be called let's call it Antic. Oops. And I'll save it right as the same name in the Blender file. And we're going to do the same thing for the sword, the android with the sword. So this one's just an idle animation. So from the idle animation, I'm just going to delete all the keys, make it 60 frames. And same thing, I'm going to put it on time lapse. Okay, so it's basically the same thing as the one I did before. He quickly gets into position, and he idles there until the 2 seconds is up. And as soon as that 2 seconds up, he does the attack. Okay, so I'm just gonna export that. So I don't need to do this for the android with the gun because he doesn't have any like melee attacks. It's he's just shooting, so he doesn't need an antic. This one will be called sword antic. The binder file will be the same name. Sword antic. Okay, so first I need to move some files around. So I just need to dump those two FBXs that I just created. So Antic and sword Antic. Okay, so I'm going to first I'm going to import the female warrior's evade animation. Find it. Why am I not seeing it here? Oh, I'm in the right folder. Okay, so I'm gonna import that. I'm gonna specify skeletal mesh, which is female warrior default pose, and double check to make sure that import animations is checked, and then I'm going to import. And that'll take. Okay, so I've got the evade anim imported, save selected. Now I've got to go into the Android FBX folder, and I've got to import the Antic and the sword Antic that I just created, as well as this take hit animation. Basically what that is, in my last video I showed you how if I hit the enemy, then the enemy does a flip up in the air and lands on the ground. But this time around I'm going to change it up so that he does this take hit animation twice before the third hit makes him go up into the sky and then fall to the ground. So it takes 3 hits for the player to get the enemy on the ground. So that's what that is. I'll show you that in a little bit. So I'm going to open these. And same thing, specify skeleton, Android guard default pose, and make sure import animations is checked, and then press import. And that's going to take a few moments. Okay, so these are all imported. I'm going to save all. And what do I want to do first? Maybe I'll try, I'll do the evasion first. So I'm going to go into my project settings, input. I'm going to create an action mapping. It's going to be called evade. And I don't want to use any of my mouse buttons. I've got the left mouse button for attack, the middle mouse button for equipping the weapons, and the right mouse button is for run. So evasion could be, I'll use the shift button. Sorry, my pinky cannot hit the shift. Left shift. Okay. So I'm going to open up all my blueprints. I'll start off with the androids. And finally the player character. So before I implement that, I have to create a scene object, which is basically an empty object, and I'm going to call it evade go to location. So basically what that is when she evades, not only is the animation going to play, but her position is going to change, move to this position. So in basic inputs, action events, evade, which is the shift button, and when I press it, I'm going to get a sequence. I'm going to play do I want a montage? Yeah, I want a montage, so I'm going to go to evade. Click on the animation sequence and right click to create and a montage. And I'm going to quickly open that up. And blend in, blend out, it's going to be 0. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. This is my evade button press. I'm going to pull out, create a play and a montage, and it's going to be evade and a montage, but I also want to move components. And the component that I'm going to move is going to be the capsule. The capsule is going to go look at the get world location as well as the get world rotation. The rotation can just plug right in, but the location, the only thing that's going to stay the same is the Z, which is the up and down. The thing that's going to change is the go-to location that I just created right here. So get world location, split pin, and then I'm just moving it in the X and Y. So I want to compile that and just try it out real quick. Actually, I'll go and call this evade, compile once more, and then hit play. So all these guys are coming to me. Why am I not moving? Okay, if I press shift, the wall's in the way, so I can't really see what I'm doing. I go. So as you can see, she evades wherever I'm facing. So just say the enemy's coming to me, and I want to go away. I can just move away and press evade. And she evades wherever she's facing, and she's facing wherever I'm pressing the key. So if I want to evade to the left, then I just press left, and I hit the shift button, and then she evades. Okay, so that's good. The next thing I want to do is let's see. Okay. So last video I had it so that when the enemy gets hit, it plays all these animations. It plays the flip backwards, then plays the idle 3 times while it's on the ground, and then it flips back up. And this entire thing takes 5 seconds. And during that 5 seconds, I activate and deactivate so that all this stuff can happen. And I also set the collision response of the enemy trace to ignore and then to block. So all this stuff only happens. I want to create another variable, and this one's going to be called how many hits. This is going to be a float, and I want to compile it. By default, it's going to be 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'll pull out and create another sequence. I'm going to copy and paste this to the other 2 enemies. So what this sequence is going to do is if I'll create a branch, if how many hits equals 0, which is the default value, if it's 0, then I'm going to do another sequence. I'm going to play animation in the skeletal mesh. This one's going to be the take hit animation that I mentioned. And then how many hits is going to be set to 1. I want to copy and paste this. And if how many hits is equal to, I want to change this to 1, then this is going to be set to 2. So this happens when how many hits is equal to 1, then it sets how many hits to 1. Or sorry, how many hits equals to 0, then this all this happens. Then it's set to 1. If it equals 1, then all this happens, and how many hits is set to 2. And I'm going to create one more. Actually, I can just probably copy and paste this one. Actually, I need a sequence as well. If how many hits equals 2, because up here it's set to 2, then it does all this stuff that I did yesterday, where the enemy gets flipped back and lands on the ground, and the whole thing happens for 5 seconds. But at the same time, this how many hits gets set to 0, so it goes back to here. But the thing about this is that this should only happen if the player hits the enemy 3 consecutive times. Let's just say the player only hits the enemy like once or twice, and then walks away. If the player walks away and then comes back, this whole thing should reset to 0, so that the whole thing starts again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another pin, and I'm going to say after a delay of, so the player attacks as well as these animations are about 1 second. So let's just say the player hits, and then hits. That should be about 3 seconds, plus the 5 seconds of this to happen. But we're just looking at the player hits. So if the player like attacks 1, 2, 3, that's 3 seconds. So after about, let's just say 5 seconds, how many hits automatically get set to 0. Actually, I'll give it more room, and I'll give it, actually 5 seconds should be fine. Okay, so I'm just going to compile this, and I'm going to create all, I want to copy all of this that I just created, and I'm going to paste it into the other 2. So I'll break this link. I'll paste everything. And then this third one is plugged in here. And same for this one. Okay, so I'm going to compile this and I want to try this out. So I'll save all. So I'm just going to use the punch. So the closest one comes to me. I hit him once. I don't know what happened there. That should not be happening. Let me just see for a second. What did I do wrong? If I go to my basic inputs for the player, if it overlaps, oh, I think I know what's happening. Because whenever it overlaps, this gets triggered many times, I think, as long as the enemy's overlapping with this big collider here. So that's why all, like, these 1, 2, 3 hits all happens at the same time. That's why you see the enemy flip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to do a do once node. I want to try this. It does all of this once, and then after a delay of 1 second, it resets. Yeah, I'm gonna copy and paste it for the other two. I just need to double check where it gets toggled. So the attack collider, which is this box here, is this node. Okay, so whenever the player attacks, it's on for half a second and then turned off. Okay, so hopefully this works. So So if it is still let me take a look at this take hit animation. I have this funny feeling about it. So this is the stuff from yesterday. This is the animation that should be playing, but it's not playing that one. Okay, so I think I figured out a solution. So if I play now, let's just say I wait for the closest one to come to me, and then I attack, then he plays like the regular animation. But if I hit him a bunch of times, the third time he falls to the ground. So if I go 1, 2, and hit him the third time, he falls to the ground. Okay, so that's working. And the reason why it's working now is because after just say how many hits equals 0. So let's just say the player attacks and the enemy receives this deal damage. It says if how many hits equals 0, then I'll play this animation where he takes the hit. But instead of setting the how many hits to 1 immediately, I set it to 1 after 1 second. So I'm waiting for this 1 second animation to play before this gets set to 1. And then that 1 can trigger this animation when the player attacks again. And then again, it takes another 1 second for it to be set to 2. So that way, if these delays make it so that this part of it doesn't play until the enemy actually gets hit twice before. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to quickly save all this. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that when the player detects the closest enemy, the player is constantly rotating towards that enemy. So first what I want to do is I need to create a variable first. That says if something is detected, let me see for a second. Actually, I'm going to disconnect that. I don't want it to interrupt with all this other stuff, so I'm going to create a sequence. And the sequence is going to say if something is hit within that big sphere, the multi-sphere trace, if something is detected, then I'm going to create a boolean called uh, multi-sphere detected. So basically it's saying is something being detected by the multi-sphere. So if this is true, then multi-sphere detect is going to be true. If nothing is being detected, um, if not, none of the enemies are colliding with that big sphere, then it's going to be set to false. So I'm going to quickly add this to something that I created yesterday, which is this, I think, the sword attacks. Or is it the regular attack? So this rotates to the closest enemy. So I have one for a regular attack, and then there's also a sword attack when the player has the sword equipped. Or do I? Anyways, this can only happen. This only rotates to when the player attacks. The player rotates towards the closest enemy only if the multi-sphere trace is detecting an enemy. If not, then the player doesn't do this rotation. And I believe I had something similar. Maybe I didn't have it. So this is the sword. So I basically need to copy and paste this for the sword. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for now. I think that's good. But I wanted to constantly rotate. Before I do that, I'm going to name some of these. Closest enemy. I'm going to create another custom event called rotate to closest enemy tick. And I'm going to call it the event tick. Rotate to closest enemy tick. So basically, if I add this, I don't have to have this rotation that I was just dealing with. I technically don't have to have it, but I'm gonna leave this anyways. Okay, so I finally copied and pasted it. So the player is constantly going to be turning towards the closest player as long as, number one, it's being detected by the multi-sphere, so it has to be within the radius of the big red sphere. And the closest enemy distance, so the distance from the player to the closest enemy is going to be smaller than, let's just say, 500. So both of these have to be true, so I need an AND boolean. This AND boolean is going to be plugged into branch. I'm missing something. Let me just try this out. Oh, let's try this first. I'm going to try. First I'm going to unplug this. Try this once more. Oh, so it does rotate. So if I move around, as you can see, she no longer if I'm far enough away, she should. Okay. For some reason, this actually works, but she doesn't come out of it when she's far away. So multi-sphere. So if this is false, then I'm going to recombine struct bin. Recombine struct bin. So let's see if this works if she's far away again. I'm really far away. And none of the enemies are... What is going on? thing. I've got the character movement, orient, set orient rotation to movement. So when she's facing the character, this orient rotation to movement is turned off. But as soon as this is false, then this turns back on. So as soon as he gets close enough, she rotates to the closest enemy. And as soon as she's far enough away, she doesn't snap back. Okay, I don't understand this. Okay, I've got it to work now. Basically, what I did was I changed this second one. Before I had closest enemy distance. If this was smaller than 500, but instead of using the closest enemy distance, I just recalculated it by doing distance to from the self, from the player character to the closest enemy, if that distance is smaller than 500. And so that has to be true, as well as the sphere detection. So the sphere has to be detecting an enemy. So now, if I go play, see, enemies are detected, but as soon as it's within 500, she turns to the closest enemy. But just say the closest enemy changes, then let's just say this gun character is closer, then she'll rotate to the gun character. But as soon if I move far enough away and none of the enemies are detected, then I can continue to use orient rotation movement, so I can like turn in different directions depending on which direction I'm moving. But as soon as the characters come into the sphere, closest enemy comes, and then within a certain distance, rotating. If I go over here, all of a sudden this guy becomes closer, then I rotate to him, and I can attack him, close enough. So that's working now. But one thing that I would like to do is there's a couple things that I could do. Is number one, I'm going to get this evade go to location. That's the location she moves to when she evades. I'm going to duplicate that. This one's going to be called attack go to location. It doesn't necessarily have to be much different, so I'm just going to make it the same distance for now. So whenever she evades, she does this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it to where the attack is. So if she does the oops, she does the melee attack. That's nice and high. Or if she does the sword attack. So let's go and paste it right here. first. Try this once more. Okay. Copy. There we go. Okay. So the capsule component is going to move to not the evade go-to location, but the attack go-to location, which is basically the same distance, but I might change it later, so I want to keep it separate from the evade location. I'll plug this in, and I want to copy and paste it below the sword. Compile. I'll go try this out. Okay, so whenever I punch, so I'm constantly moving towards the closest enemy whenever I punch, which is great. So if I press the middle mouse button, equip with a sword, and the same thing. I do a slide forwards towards the closest enemy. Okay, that's working fine. One last thing that I would like to try before I wrap this up is I want to move the camera when she's facing the closest enemy, which is basically what I created 2 seconds ago, but I don't know where I put it. Oh, okay, it's right here. Okay. So whenever the enemies are within the sphere and the closest enemy is less than 500, then she rotates to the closest enemy. So I'm going to move all this down because I'm going to need room. Basically what I want is I'm going to move component, which is going to be the camera. So the camera already has the location rotation 0, 0, 0, 0 for all of them. So over the period, let's just say 2 seconds, it's going to go, let's just say to about maybe here, 120. So I'm going to do that. So it was the X, that was 120. But if it's false, it's going to go back to its regular position in 2 seconds. So I'm just going to see if this works. So starting off, everything's all good. She's looking around, but as soon as she rotates, the camera gets closer. I want to go even closer than that. I'm going to go I'll go 150, 150, 70. So 150 in the X and 70 in the Y. So as the closest enemy gets close enough, the camera goes here. So whenever she's far away, the camera goes back to normal, goes to normal position. As soon as closest enemy within distance, then the camera moves. So that you get sort of, I guess, a close-up of the melee combat. But she's out of, as soon as I spin around, if I attack, I think the camera's colliding with the enemies. But I'm not going to worry about that. I think that's enough for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for the next video because I didn't get a chance to implement the Antic animations that I created earlier. And I also want to stop the enemies from colliding with my camera. So, hopefully I'll see you in the next video.